Hey everybody, how's it going out there? Well, many furries were pleasantly surprised in the last week, or surprised, I should say. I don't know about pleasantly or unpleasantly. I guess it depends on your opinion. But there was a news article that was released by a mainstream press media paper. I think you might have heard of them. They're called The Rolling Stone. And they did an article on the furry fandom and asking the question, will furries ever go mainstream? There's a certain law about headlines and the answer in the form of a question. The answer to that question is always no, right? That's sort of a meme in the press industry, but I think in this case the answer might be yes. And this video is going to kind of go over why. And ironically, most of it has to do with the reaction to this particular article, both inside the fandom and around, and by the institutions around the fandom and outside of the fandom. So today we're going to go over that. But it looks like, I guess we switched it up bitches and now we got a pictures on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Nah, that's not the cover, that's just an article. But you know what I mean. Anyways. So the article is you can find it in the description below. It's very well written. It's a pretty long form. There's a lot of effort that was put into it. They go over their experiences at Midwest Fur Fest, which is where they did most of their congregations with furries and talking to them about it. But on the premise itself, as far as furries going mainstream, it's not a new topic in the fandom. A lot of furries in the fandom were wondering, like, is furry going to grow to a part where it becomes part of mainstream culture or not? It's always something that people claim, oh, this is the time that we went mainstream, or this is the time that we went mainstream. I even may have had a video, I don't know, sorry, the side, I think it's on the side. So that talked about us being talked about in non-furry subject matters up in the video above. One of the big ones I remember was when Zootopia was coming out, and a lot of people were like, oh, Disney's advertising to us because they use the words anthropomorphic in their thing, and it's like, okay, we didn't invent the word anthropomorphic, but sure. I mean, it's that lingo word. It's that word we use when we want to distance ourselves from being animal people and talking to mortal people, so we can feel like we're smart and using large words. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, that was a time when people were talking about us being mainstream as the Zootopia issue. There's been questions about it here and there. But as I said, I think that if anything, the results of this particular article in the aftermath kind of prove that we're mainstream. So the question is, how do you prove something's mainstream, right? How do you prove something is in culture enough where it's considered to be part of the culture or part of culture? One of the big things is people riding on your coattails or emulation or things. Because Rolling Stone here is sort of a mainstream press, as it were. Now, some people may argue against that because their name is the Rolling Stone, and the Rolling Stone band hasn't been relevant since the 90s at the latest, right? So, how mainstream or how presenting of mainstream can a magazine called Rolling Stone really be? But of course, this is coming from somebody who writes for furry news articles on a place called Flera, which is a neologism in a book that was published in the 1970s that most furries probably hadn't read, called Watership Down. I think most furries have read it, I hope. If you haven't, then you should read it. It's a good, or just watch the things at least. My favorite word that they came up with was not Flera, it was Horududu to describe automobiles. I thought that was a very clever one because it sounds like the engine. Haru-do-do. But anyways, back to the pot calling the pedal black on relevant magazine title or magazine titles, right? So the Rolling Stone, how do you know it's still sort of a mainstream publication? Well, people ride on their coattails. as Ash Coyote pointed out on her Twitter feed and brought to my attention, there's this other article that kind of came out not too far after the Rolling Stone came out with theirs, from Inked Mag, called Tattooing Fursuits, the Quiet Conundrum Faced by Furries. Yeah, that conundrum's so quiet, even I hadn't heard of it, and I hear a lot of things in this fandom. So you go to this, I'm going to put that one in the description below too. But obviously, to me, this one was riding on the coattails of the Rolling Stone article, because it came out after, like, it showed up afterwards, obviously. And if you read it, you do see them make reference to that article almost immediately. It's like they're not even ashamed of riding on the coattails. They're talking about it right away. But the funny thing is that they try to bring it back to what their magazine talks about. Which, by the way, Rolling Stone didn't really do that all that much either. I thought, like, Rolling Stones was about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? I thought that was their main thing. I don't know many furries that are into rock and roll all too much, unless you're Scratch 21, right? I mean, it seems pretty alien to concept of us. I mean, there are some sex and there are some drugs. I mean, that happens sometimes. Not so much on the rock and roll. Furries are usually more into the for better or for worse music. Not my genre, really, but that's beyond the scope. This is more along the lines of these guys riding their coattails. So they tried to make it relevant to their magazine by going, oh, did you know that furries were talking about tattooing their fursuits? It's a big topic in the fandom, and it's such a big topic. It's such a topic that is worthy of discussion, that is worthy of a full article for their magazine, because they linked to proof that the topic was being discussed. And do you know what their link went to? It went to a LiveJournal post in 2005 about one furry I've never heard of talking to another furry I've never heard of discussing putting tattoos on their fursuit. Back then, I didn't even have a fursuit. Back then, I was in the fandom for like 4 years, and I was still lurking. I hadn't even been to one single convention yet. This was a long time ago, people. A long time ago. And so, what I've got to say is that fleeting evidence at best. Very like, okay, you gave us an example. Give us a pattern. And it's like, I didn't really see a pattern there. Which is kind of funny for a tattoo. You want to have patterns, man. That's what tattoo people do. But anyway, so what I said here is that if you know your mainstream, if somebody's riding on your coattails, you're writing an article in response to another magazine writing an article because they're more mainstream than you and you want to get down on this action. So furries, are we mainstream enough where people are riding on our coattails, that people want in on this action, that there are people out there trying to take advantage of other people more in the mainstream talking about it and doing things, and yes, there is. DHgate needs no introduction to people who are furries, but for those who are not, because you might hear about the Rolling Stone thing instead, DHgate is a website that sells products, and one of the things that they're infamously known for in the furry fandom is knockoff fursuits, usually based on actual fursuiters' designs in the furry fandom. Like they'll show a picture of like somebody's actual thing, like Lucky Coyote or like one of these well-known fursuiters, and they'll sell a knockoff version of that particular fursuit made cheaply, even though they're selling it for $500 a pop. The most famous thing known for that, and this might be interest of you to those who are Rolling Stone and music fans, because Rolling Stone's about music, right? Is that a person named Violent J had ended up getting swindled by DHgate for trying to buy his daughter a fursuit, And there's a video about the Snake Busters episode 1, which they were going to make a series, but they never really got into it. It's like one of those things. It's like, yeah, we did our thing, and then we're moving on. They're busy people, right? People who are celebrities do that. They like, oh, this is a project we want to start, and then they never. I've done that. I've had projects that I've started that I haven't continued. No worries, man. But that video's up there. And so like DHgate, yeah, we had people step on our coattails. We had people following up on our coattails and things like that. And even and not only that, but mainstream media is also like covering our coattails and things like that. There's also the issue of people, how people found the Rolling Stone magazine article, right? There's that too, and a lot of people have found this Rolling Stone article within the fandom, because Google showed it as an algorithm thing on their tablet. It happened with me, but I can't use myself as evidence because I do furry nonfiction all the time. So I've already kind of like, I went out and told Google, like, give me some art. If you find furry articles, like, tell me about them, right? I had already gone through and customized my newsfeed to kind of show that stuff voluntarily. But it turns out that other furries also have brought this up. Here we have Zilchfox, the furry artist, who shows that he found the Rolling Stone article through his homepage on his Android phone, showing that, yeah, we're mainstream enough where Google's algorithm is, suggesting news articles of what we're reading based upon our user histories with them and things like that. We're not quite so mainstream where their AdSense is targeting products at us or anything like that. The only things that furries usually get AdSense target ads for is the like shoes that we happened to buy like a week ago, and then it's like, hey, did you like those shoes you bought a week ago? Here's another pair. Click here to buy those shoes again. It's like, I already got those shoes. I just bought them. But you want another pair, don't you? You need 2 pairs of those same shoes. The algorithm's got a way to go, guys. Give them some slack, okay? They'll get there. Soon they'll be like, packaging kigurumis for us to buy or something, okay? They'll get there eventually, and when we do, our poor wallets are going to cry because they're like, I don't want to buy this thing, but it looks so cute, and I want to buy it, and all that stuff. But you must be resilient. When these ads come to you, you must be resilient. Stand your ground. Do not let your wallet falter. But anyways, on top of that, there's also this other thing that there was another tweet that went about, which I don't have a photo of right now, but there's a spin-off of The Masked Singer coming out called The Masked Dancer. I guess they're trying to make a spin-off of it. And it looks like people in animal costumes are dancing. And a lot of people joke that they are like mainstream televising the fursuit dance competitions that are very popularized at our conventions. To me, I just don't get that premise though. Like the idea of The Masked Singer is that you obscure the identity of like a celebrity or something, and they sing a song for the camera, and people have to guess who they are just on how they are singing, right? Like, on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Yeah, like that, right? And then the guys will guess, right, who's singing behind the mask and guess who that person is because their identity is a secret. They never did a face reveal. And so it takes, like, it's supposed to be about mystery, but it's also trying to find out, like, if a person can know somebody by the tone of their voice and the cadence and things like that. If they can guess a celebrity. I don't see how you're supposed to do that with dance moves. Like, dance moves are something that are easily emulatable. That anybody with enough time and dedication can emulate dance moves very effectively. I mean, if somebody gets up there and starts pop locking and like doing the oh like those kind of things, and like doing like the moonwalks and like and pop locking and like doing those like like I bumped my muzzle there. That's how bad I'm at dancing. I can't even dance with my upper body correctly. But enough about my fault. Somebody else can do that well, right? And just because they're dancing like Michael Jackson doesn't mean that Michael Jackson. It's like, oh my gosh, you're dancing like Michael Jackson. Are you Michael Jackson? Because that would be quite a thriller, right? Michael Jackson back from the dead, dancing like Michael Jackson, right? But like, how are you supposed to like make even guesses about that? That doesn't even make sense to me, right? In the sense of that competition, I just don't get it. Maybe I'm see, I myself understand. I understand culture enough at a distance. I guess I'm just not mainstream enough to understand that. And maybe, just maybe, me being mainstream, not being mainstream enough to understand that, means that we're still not mainstream yet. Maybe. Who knows? Um, but anyways, what were your thoughts on that article? What were your thoughts on that? Are furries mainstream or not? Or is the jury still out? When do you in your opinion, what is the factor that would make furries mainstream? In your opinion, what is it? Google algorithms? Is it people trying to sell our fursuits on bogus websites? What do you think being mainstream would entail? Please feel free to share your thoughts below. If you like this content, kick that like, kick the subscribe button and the bell, and ring the ding-a-ling. And feel free to kick a comment in the comment section about what you think that would make the furries mainstream. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to get the hop out of here, and we will see you again next week for a brand new topic. Thank you very much.